welcome everybody to the webinar. This is our first webinar that we've done this year for the Cert 3 Marine program. And I wanted to give you an overview of the program to let you know what the course entails and the projects that we're working on, and give you an insight into this really exciting and unique program that doesn't really exist anywhere else in the space. So to introduce myself, my name is Dr. Steve Andrews, and I've my PhD in marine science and environmental education, and I'm a marine biologist in by training, and this is a really wonderful opportunity to blend all of my passion for education, but also for empowering people with marine science skills. And marine conservation and restoration is so important in this time, and it's something that we really is a really critical thing now. So what we're going to do, we'll be joined by Jasmine, who is a current Cert 3 student. So you'll be able to have a chance to hear from the students, from one of the students from the class, and there will be a Q&A at the end. So if you have any questions, you can either type it into the chat, or you can, it's best to put it in the chat and we can address it at the end. So we will have a chance to answer your questions, and you guys are all muted at the moment, but at the end for Q&A, we can unmute you and we can have a little bit of a conversation. So I wanted to just start by acknowledging the Kabi Kabi people. And this is on the Sunshine Coast, where I spend some time, where I'm calling from today. And Jasmine's down in Burleigh. And the Envirotech campus is based in Burleigh Heads. Now, we run a course, especially during COVID, that's been a blended online and in-person course. So I wanted to start sharing my screen with you and let you know a little bit about the course structure and anything. And if you have questions as you go, just go ahead and put it in the chat. So we are teaching the first ever vocational level marine habitat conservation and restoration. Now, I don't know the background of the participants, but I hope you're familiar with the VET system. Vocational education has traditionally, there's a lot of different courses that you can study in vocational education. Now, marine conservation and restoration has not traditionally been a part of this system, but it's a wonderful opportunity to start to teach these really critical skills and to build this industry in a new way that's very much needed. Traditionally, you would have to go to university to gain these skills. Now, our courses offer a much quicker route to that knowledge, as well as connections in the industry and getting real-life practical experience on projects in this field. So we're really quite proud of what we've built and continuing to improve and keep building. Envirotech has registered these courses with ASQA, and the Cert 2, Cert 3 in Marine, and Cert 4 and Diploma are in the pipeline on the way that have been registered. So we hope that these programs also will be a bridge at some point to university programs that we can link up with for marine science. That's the big picture vision. And the big picture vision as well for this course is to really offer domestic students and international students an opportunity to connect with the marine conservation and restoration industry in Australia and get these skills, hands-on practical skills, and the knowledge-based learning pretty much straight away, and get that. And also, we also offer the diving course through the program. So open water diving or advanced open water diving is part of the course, which is really great because students can come on board. They want to be diving, but they've thought about this for a while, but they get to do this. They get to do the dive course with our partner, Gold Coast Dive Center, as the course goes on. So I just wanted to show you a little bit of a run through of the program. This is just one of our flyers. So the course is a 12-month course. It's a 1-year course, and again, it's a blend of online learning and practicals in person, also workshops in person that we do. That's the current structure. Now things will be changing, I think, due to legislation throughout the year as it moves in terms of the online space. But for now, this is what the program is. All of these things basically prepare you to be able to join projects that are working in the space, in the conservation and restoration space, with whether it's with NGOs, or if there's industry, there's companies. This is a space where a lot of companies are actually starting out in the past 3 to 4 years. There's a lot more funding going into this industry, as I think as Australia especially realizes how important it is to conserve and also restore our critical marine habitats that have been really degraded. We've seen that with the storms and why it's so important when we have all this runoff going into the bay. I'll explain one of the main projects that we're working on is an oyster reef restoration project. It's so important because they're the filters of the ocean. They clean and filter the water, and they've been completely taken out, over the past 100 years. So we're working on projects that students are actually getting their hands on and bringing these reefs back, which is really critical. So these ecosystem services that nature gives us, that we don't think about, but they're really, really critical, right? So we go over lots of different, you learn how to monitor different ecosystems, learn a lot about different habitats. And there are, obviously pathways forward for students when they graduate in the industry. We've had a couple really awesome success stories to talk about. One of our students just got appointed to a board down in Victoria, one of the peak bodies for marine science and education down there after she finished her course. We've also had a few students get jobs up on the Great Barrier Reef in the industry up there, working in different locations. And the opportunities really, with this degree is to really connect with the people that are in the industry. It's all about building relationships. A degree by itself will give you nothing pretty much in any industry. It'll give you something, but it's all about relationships and building that. It really is the majority. You're going to have the skills from this, and you can take that, and the connections that we bring into the class are really really awesome. A really great opportunity. So why do we care about the ocean? And I'm going to give you a little quick just a little overview about why it's so critical, why it's so critical to conserve and to restore our marine habitats. We're very dependent on them as a species, right? So we've had some really big impacts on the ocean recently. The recent flooding from last year in the bay caused a lot of habitat devastation in Moreton Bay, which is in southeast Queensland, where we live. And these floods were 5 to 10 times more sediment coming out of the rivers than had come from the biggest one that was recorded previously in 2011. So we're dealing with all of this human inputs, all this human, waste, pollution, all the sedimentation, which is all the dirt going into the water and really hurting the marine life, right? So the main impacts that we're looking at that we address in this class, so we teach people about how to deal with, is overfishing, coastal development. We look at climate change, looking at marine plastics, loss of habitat, things like that are really, really important issues to deal with when it comes to marine conservation and restoration. And one of the topics that we really deal with in class as well, especially in this new industry that's really emerging, is marine regeneration. So we like to use the word regenerate because from conservation is really critical. Regeneration is kind of the next step that we're helping to bring back these habitats that we're relying on. And what we can see in the ocean when we come to marine restoration or regeneration, the ocean bounces back really quickly if we spend the time. So, like when you're planting trees or you're restoring terrestrial habitat on the land, it can take a long time for a forest to come back to what, to be actually a forest, 20, 30 years. In the oceans, we see that reduced to about 5 years to healthy habitat that's regenerated and healthy. So, for example, giant kelp, which is an organism I'll talk about in a little bit, it can grow up to 1 to 2 feet a day. So one of the great things, we see this regeneration happening quicker in the oceans. People can see that it's happening faster. And yeah, it's exciting because you see the results a lot quicker. We look at marine protected areas. Marine protected areas are really, really important. to look at, and that means basically like national parks in the ocean and why that's important. I'm just going to share a quick video of the Cert 3 course, and you get a little bit of an overview with it. And then we'll go into a few specific projects that we're working on, key areas that we're focusing on, and then pass it over to Jasmine.
Marine exploitation and pollution are causing rapid damage to entire marine ecosystems globally, including Australia's largest natural marine asset, the Great Barrier Reef. With issues such as marine pollution, ocean acidification, loss of marine species, and degradation of marine and coastal environments, Envirotech Education believes we need better educated people to fight to turn this around. Certificate 2 and 3 in Marine Habitat Conservation and Restoration are both vocational education and training, VET accredited courses with practical and theoretical activities. Envirotech Education is currently the only RTO in Australia to offer such marine courses to students. Protection and conservation projects, including coastal environmental campaigns, creation of conservation areas, deployment of artificial reefs, conservation-based diving activities, restoration of mangroves, shellfish protection programs, seagrass bed and coral reef conservation are all critical to make these changes possible. Students will receive direct learning, be able to discuss case studies and scenarios, participate in work groups, get practical hands-on learning, and count on industry involvement. After certification, graduates will become qualified marine conservation and restoration professionals. Possibilities of jobs for marine professionals, fishery management and monitoring, marine park ranger, research assistant, volunteer coordinator, restoration projects, data collector, research services officer on marine ecosystems, and more. Are you ready to make a change? Join us at Marine Habitat Conservation and Restoration courses.
So I'm just going to talk about a few of the projects that we're working with, that we combine the curriculum that we teach, like a practical curriculum, with actual projects that are happening. So this is really the great thing about this course, that universities might not offer this kind of practical connection to real life projects where we're actually on the ground doing these things. So the first project that we're supporting and helping out and working with is oyster reef restoration. It all throughout Australia has lost 90 to 95% of its shellfish reefs in the last over the last 100 years, and it's all been taken for building materials and for food as well. And it's the basis of all of the waterways, all the on the east coast of Australia, especially all around the world. Oysters are really important and have been degraded a lot. Every hectare of oyster reef would filter 2.7 billion liters of seawater, and removing all of these inputs from the land. So, and also providing reef and habitat for many fish, providing homes for over 100 marine species. And the project that we're working on is with Ozfish, which is a really great NGO that we're working with. I'm going to show you a little bit of the video. We won't watch the whole thing because it's a little bit long, but I want to give you an insight into the project that they're working on.
I think a large section of Brisbane lives and breathes Moreton Bay, and Moreton Bay and its beautiful islands are really important to the people of southeast Queensland.
Shellfish reefs are really important for estuaries around the world, and particularly areas such as Moreton Bay, because they provide habitat for a variety of different organisms, so commercially important fish and crustaceans. They filter when they're feeding, so they're basically like the kidneys of the waterways in these areas. They have disappeared, so in Moreton Bay, oyster reefs are functionally extinct.
So in Moreton Bay, we know that a lot of the shellfish reefs that historically occurred within this area were harvested for either limestone or for consumption. And that's resulted in about a 96% loss of shellfish within Moreton Bay region. When those shellfish were physically harvested from these areas, not only were the shellfish themselves harvested, but also all the rocks that they were living on.
The community realised that by losing all these shellfish reefs, we've lost the services that they provide. That's including water quality, fish production, biodiversity, Ozfish is for fishers. We spend a lot of time looking at fish and wondering where they are and why they're not biting, where they breed and where they live. And we can see that there's habitat destruction that's happened for many years. Ozfish gives opportunities to restore fish habitat.
So that's probably the most important thing, that we need to provide some appropriate substrates for those actual oysters to settle on and grow and survive. So recycled oyster shells are by far the best substrate for other oysters to settle on.
Healthy Land and Water has been working with Ozfish since they started. Ozfish got behind the community-driven shell recycling.
We wanted a way so that our community members could be the ones that actually deploy the reef. We decided we need to invent an oyster basket.
We collect our shells from restaurants as well as commercial oyster shuckers. And we recycle them, getting them ready to put back in the water. So we collect them, we dry them in the sun for a minimum 4 months when we wash them in water and they're ready to go.
These baskets are made by community members in our workshop.
So I wanted to show you guys just a little quick, a few videos from when we were on practical with the students. And I just wanted to show you this really amazing video as well, which is, I'll just pull this up here. So we went with the students to build the oyster baskets. This is with some of the students when we first went. And then this, we've gone a few times with different programs.
We're at Ozfish Oyster Reef Restoration Project with Biotech students, bringing back the oyster reefs that were lost in the bay. We lost 96% of the oyster reefs in the bay due to development and for food as well. So we're bringing back the natural filtration system and baseline of the ecosystems in Morton Bay. We're building the baskets, the students actually building the ROVs themselves, cutting them. You can see them here, ready to go. They're cutting and putting them together. Then we have all the old oyster shell, and you can see that it's been tons and tons of oyster shell coming through here, washing it off, putting it into the basket. Then we put them together, and we will deploy them into the water. So you can see here all the old oyster shell. Look at all of that. That's a lot. We're at Ozfish Oyster Reef.
So from that, basically what we did was the students built all these oyster baskets from recycled shells from restaurants, and we're literally bringing back the habitat that was destroyed. I'm going to show you, before I go on to the next bit, I wanted to show you a time-lapse video of why oysters are important and what they do to filter the water. So that's a pretty direct, you can see in 30 minutes how much water is filtered by these oysters. So we built the baskets, the students have gone and they built the baskets. Now what we're going to do, we went out another day and we actually put them in the water. So
Okay, here at Ozfish Oyster World, and we're loading up these oyster baskets, the ROVs onto the boat here. And we're going to be deploying them into the bay, having a really beautiful day of oyster reef regeneration, bringing back the biggest habitats that was lost in the last 100 years in the bay.
Moore Bay here.
it's one of the Biotech students.
Rods, which need to robust waste the basket. To basically restore help restore the natural waste population of the bay. At the end of the 1800s, the waste population was pretty much extinct, muchly extinct. They're ripping up the trees up at the bottom. Built Brisbane, they're also harvesting oysters for production. And yeah, these baskets, white baskets that we made ourselves on our last practical, but they're filled with oyster shells. That creates kind of the perfect substrate for new oysters to grow on.
So we have basically deployed them, put them in the water, and that's what one of the projects that we're working on now. We work, this actually aligns to the unit curriculum for and the unit materials for some of the units, and we're able to, through the practical, through that work with a real project, students are able to learn and actually make real change and make real regenerative change. So that's just one example. We'll talk about biodiversity enhancers in a second. We also learn about seagrass, which is really important. Mangroves. Mangroves are really important, mangrove conservation and restoration. I'm not going to talk about it and spend too much time on that. We learn a lot about coral reefs as well, how to have coral nurseries for coral restoration projects. Yeah, there's a lot of funding and a lot of work working towards coral reef restoration. It's really big, especially in the Great Barrier Reef area. So students learn a lot about that, and we bring in experts in the field on that. We also learn about kelp forests, which are down in Tasmania. Most of them have been lost, and we learn about restoration methods for that. Now, the other practical project that I wanted to talk about briefly was another project that we're working on that we're spearheading with Tweed Shire Council, and the students are helping lead is for a project where we're working towards putting in diversity enhancers or an artificial reef, however you'd like to say it, that the students have built, bringing in habitat, bringing back habitat for marine life that's been destroyed in the past. It's a very integrated project. We have a student leadership team that's going to be spearheading this as well. We have had really good feedback from council about our project, and we're doing what we call monitoring. So we're going back to the sites during the practicals, taking data, looking at that. So the students have actually built these units. So they build these units, these diversity enhancement units in the practical in a unit. And then right now we're working with fisheries, New South Wales Fisheries, possibly Ozfish as well as a partner to get these units in, and working with Tweed Shire Council. So our project proposal, this is the project proposal that the students are having a big part of. We do what we call transects, and we take the students out to monitor and collect data in the harbor there. This is part of our practicals, and that's just to understand what, just want to find that image, what is actually in the site. So this is an image here where we have the different sites where the students will swim, and they'll do their monitoring and data collection, which we teach as part of the unit. So there's units like line and belt transects, and those survey and report of fish populations. We're doing this here in the harbor as part of the actual project and building the data that we're putting together in the proposal. So what I really like about it is it's not just some random unit floating out there that we do something random with. It's actually building towards a project that we're actually working on together. Alrighty, so here we are doing building artificial reefs out of concrete. You can have a look. Yay! Yay!
Sun shining, the drones in the air.
So have a look over here. We got the molds that we're using. This is the triangle mold that we're going to make into an artificial oyster reef unit. That they look like this when they're done. You can see them like here. That's what it looks like when they're ready to go. So we want lots of areas for marine life to have protection. Even these little nooks and crannies, all this kind of stuff, that really helps. Just really give shelter for marine life. That's what we're doing.
Just made the mold out of wood to start off with.
Yeah.
We made this block to insert there, so we can insert two together, and it will create like a spiky triangle kind of reef thing.
Yeah.
And then to create kind of a bit of difference, a bit of texture, over it. Surface, stuff across, so it's just not like a flat surface. We put impulse in with our fingers, we're using balloons as well.
You can see the balloons there. Those balloons come out, by the way. We don't put those in the ocean. They're just there to create
And little holes with our fingers as well, with crevices, little rocks. Very cool. This thing, wow.
You can see here that this is what they look like when they're deployed in other areas for other projects that one of our mentors and has been doing for a long time. And yeah, so this is a real life proposal project that we're working on. So this is from one of the last practicals that we did there. You can see the students, everybody's about ready to go into the water. And we do, fish surveys. This is one of the students swimming, doing the fish monitoring, and also looking at the different types of the bottom types, which is called benthic monitoring. You can see there that they're, using their photography skills and understanding how to collect data in that way. That's the Jack Evans proposal. Very exciting and something that we really are looking forward to. Keep moving ahead, and through that the students will learn so many skills and connections with government, NGOs, community, understand how to deal with the community, talk to the community, talk to stakeholders, be a part of a project proposal. So that's a really invaluable experience for them. One more thing that I want to mention before I pass it on to Jasmine is we have a Cert 2 program as well, running with, we've just finished up a year-long program with Indigenous students, and we have another cohort starting. This is separate from, we're not really focusing on that for this chat, but I wanted to just quickly show you a video from that program so you have an idea what we're doing in another space with the Cert 2 program. We call this Healing Sea Country program. And the students, it's a NIA funded grant for Cert 2 marine habitat conservation and restoration. And they also get their open dive, water dive certifications. So this has been teaching in Moreton Bay.
We envision a world where humans are actively regenerating the marine ecosystems that we have damaged or destroyed. A world in which traditional custodians are leading the way with their immense wisdom and connection to country. Where the indigenous cultures who have suffered deeply from cultural and ecosystem genocide are now leading a marine regenerative movement.
So it all comes back to plants, species in the different ecosystems in the saltwater area is critical to how we survive as a people in doing the cultural practices that we do.
It's funny how we just walk along and think, oh, we can see the ocean, we can see the rock pools, it's so pretty. Actually focusing just in that little section, it's like I can see 10 times more. And to try and figure out and piece together how, like say those 3 or 4 little species work together, it's just crazy to stop and take a moment to actually see what's there.
Healing Sea Country is the first program of the Lost Islands project, led by Envirotech Education, and is currently taking place in Moreton Bay, focusing on Indigenous youth with a cohort of about 25 students.
It's really cool how the local community and other communities coming together and helping study so then they can go back and help their own areas.
Back on that skills and knowledge thing, it's just getting those type of things empowers someone like myself to get skills to actually come back to country and care.
And so this is sort of next level. It's real, it's a certificate that they can go out into the world and use, and it's also really acknowledging that Indigenous and First Nations knowledge as being equal in terms of value to science, and it's really just a matter of weaving that together, and I think it's something we need to do all around the world.
It's the first time I've ever done any studies where I wasn't the only Indigenous person basically. Most of the time, any TAFE courses or things I've done at uni, I'm usually on my own in terms of having cultural brothers and sisters around. When we restore these habitats, that's going to help restore the water we drink, the fish that we eat, the air that we breathe. Literally, restoring the habitat restores the biodiversity, the animals. More dugongs will return, squids, more oyster production, which means more food, which increases tourism and it increases community capacity to be able to eat from the ocean. And it also gives everyone something to be proud of, something we can enjoy to look at, and something we can hand on as well to the next generation.
just showing you, this is a little snapshot of our cohort here from the last practical, you guys can see. And yeah, I just wanted to share that with you. We also do one more project that we do is we do a sand dune restoration project. So we're regenerating a forest basically in Moreton Bay as well in this area. So students get to do sand dune restoration, plant trees, and do all of that. So I want to pass that on to Jasmine now. Thank you so much for listening. This is a little bit about the program and why we do what we do. Jasmine is a student who's just finishing the Cert 3 course. I wanted to ask her basically, to share for you guys what her student experience has been like, a little bit about the region that we're living in, the Gold Coast. And yeah, we'd love to hear from you, Jasmine.
Hi, everyone. I would like to start by acknowledging the Yagamba people, the traditional custodians of the land where we are at campus, where we learn, and thank them for their immeasurable knowledge of land and sea and how to care for country. So yeah, I'm finishing up in April and I've had such an amazing time. Just like Steve said, the skills that we learn in the real life projects is what sets this course way above any sort of bachelor university degree, I think, because we're actually out in the field doing these things. Like we went and did the oyster reef regeneration. That was actually one of my favorite pracs. They have all these really cool machines and it's like a working bee and we get in there and students have a chance to get out on the water and then see how the reefs are improving too, which is really awesome. I have some pictures. We do, a lot of the pracs are based in Moreton Bay, and Moreton Bay actually, not many people know, but it has a higher species diversity of corals than the Caribbean, which is pretty cool. So I'll just share my screen and I'll show you just some photos from some pracs. So this is the group. We went and did a sand dune restoration and we got, we got our hands dirty and went and did a bunch of planting, which was awesome. This is Stradbroke Island. This is Point Lookout. And from up here, we were able to see turtles and dugongs, dolphins. It's really amazing. We could walk all the way along. It's just super wild, like super wild Australia. This is another area we just had a break and took a swim. This is more of Point Lookout. We got to do some scuba. Yeah, so that's just a little bit from the Stradbroke Island. And there's me studying. This is just my Instagram. I'm now based on the Gold Coast, but I had to, fly in for the pracs, which was really awesome. We did this is our scuba diving. So I was able to do my scuba diving refresher, my open water, included in this course, which was awesome. And we went here, which is Tangalooma Rex, which is a world-renowned diving site. It was really amazing. We went there after the floods. So it was just interesting to collect data after that. We did just around our area, we did water testing and we got to learn how to use the pneumatic underwater drills, which was really cool. That was an early morning dive. And yeah, we get to see some amazing Australian wildlife. It was really cool. And I made a little video. Oh, that was at the dive at Tangalooma. We were doing coral measurements after the recent floods that happened, and there's not much scientific knowledge and data being collected about the effects of this. So students moving forward, they get to go out there and just see what's happening and start to do the oyster reefs to help regenerate and clear these waters and protect the coastlines for future floods. I'll just show you this little cutie.
We're actually heading out to do the dives next month for the practical. So take measurements of corals. We'll be going back out on the water, back out on the dive, back out to Tangalooma Rex as well. So we're going to actually go back and see how the corals fared over this last year, and maybe and see how it's going. Yeah,
it's really awesome. That's what I found with the course is we're actually helping right now, like the work we've been doing. So I'll just show you, I wanted to show you my drive to campus this morning, and just so you have, for any of you that aren't from Australia or from the Gold Coast, so you can see a little bit about the lifestyle here. Make a little video for everyone in the weather to campus, and I just stopped them. My local coffee shop in the Gold Coast.
I can't hear it very well, Jasmine. It's
Oh, I
not
can't
showing.
hear it?
It's
Just
not
I
showing.
went to coffee shops along the Gold Coast. Nice coffee weather. It's full sunny today. Okay, so I'm just walking across the street from the coffee shop out to the beach. I'm just across the road from the coffee shop. That's the beautiful beach. Yeah, I'm going to head to campus now. And this beautiful hike is up there. It's a short one, but it's so special. It's a little park. So we're really in a beautiful spot. If you come to have a little walk and this video has given you a better idea of what the Gold Coast is like. So that's actually right in front of campus. So beautiful here. I'll just stop sharing my screen. Yeah, so if you have any questions, we'll move into the Q&A.
Yep, this is a
That
great
sound
time
good?
for that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So if anybody has any questions for the course, there's a couple ways we can do this. You can either write it down into the chat, or you can raise your hand and put your hand up and we can unmute you. So it depends on how you would like to do it. So we really want to open the space up for you guys to ask questions. Hopefully you're understanding a little bit more about what we do through the course, the projects that we work on, the way that it's set up, the way that the layout is, and what you get through completing the course.
Yeah, hi. You mentioned in the beginning, something about how the legislation regarding this course could potentially change in the upcoming year, maybe. And I'm just wondering how that affects the blended learning, as you suggested it could.
Yep. So what's going to happen is mandated by the government is we're going to have to go back to face-to-face for international, especially for international students. That's going to be mandated across being mandated across all vocational. So we've been able to do what we've been able to do up until now is do all of the theory delivery online, and then the practicals in person, and catch-ups, workshops in person, that kind of thing. For international students especially, it's going to be mandated to go back to face-to-face. So we're going to have to be back in the classroom face-to-face. It doesn't really change. The only thing that it changes is we won't be, doing as much of the online. We'll still be broadcasting the class, but at the same time, it will be mandated as, I guess, part of this. I'm not an expert in it, but as part of the requirements to actually have that face-to-face time. So that's what it's going to have. Like about halfway through the year, I think that's how we're gonna move back to what it was before. This is obviously the online component has been implemented because of COVID. Obviously, there's been lots of challenges throughout that. And personally, I'm a real big fan as well of online learning. I think it's amazing, but face-to-face is really great to be there in person as well. So that's pretty much what's going to be where the biggest shift is going to be. We'll be back to face-to-face on campus.
Thank you. Yeah, it definitely makes sense. It certainly makes sense for the international students.
Yeah.
But I'm a domestic student in Victoria.
Yeah.
Do you think that would pertain to the out-of-state domestic students?
No, of course not. That's a great question. What a great question. That won't. And we have students who are overseas. No, hopefully not. That live interstate. And so it's, for example, one of the students that I talked about who's gotten that position down in Victoria, she lives in Melbourne, and so she basically what you do, this is something I missed. Thank you so much. The way that the practicals are set up. So I didn't talk about this, and this is really critical. We have 4 practicals during the year. If you live close to, close to Southeast Queensland or in this area, we ask that you join all those 4 practicals. But we have an opportunity for students who live interstate. They only have to come up here 2 times a year. So we have a condensed practical. So we condense term 1 and 2 into one condensed practical during term 2 for the students such as, yourself who would be, or who are coming from interstate or really far away. Some of our students are far up north in Queensland, and that's like, might as well be interstate, right? So some of them will just come down for the next practical. So we want to make it easier for our students who are doing the distance learning like that. Also I really try to help facilitate, especially as we grow, the connections with the students in different regions. So example, like with Jade in Melbourne, like helping to, build that little community around the course down there, and getting involved in projects in your local area is really, really great. And getting students to share their connections with projects in their local region. So that was a long answer to your question, but you don't have to be in person in class if you're a domestic student. Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
That's all good.
That just made me think about, I also started the course in Victoria, and I'd come up for the condensed prac. Since then I've moved to Queensland, but I really found that Steve and the other trainers and the online support was really helpful. I was able to get in touch with everyone really easily and set up student sessions if I had any questions. So maybe there's like an activity I might have missed the online delivery and I've watched the replay, but it's still not exactly clear to me. I've been able to set up a half-an-hour student session and just get really clear on what I had to do. So that support, I really felt supported through the course.
Thanks, Danielle, for your question. Yeah, that's another thing that I wanted to mention as well, is ongoing student support online. We do everything through Microsoft Teams and through Moodle, which is an online platform for education. We have dedicated staff for student support, online student support, that set up support sessions for people. And generally, yeah, there's a lot of support for students, even if they're not local. So great. Anybody have any other questions? Yeah.
Thank you. Actually, my question is for Jasmine. I understand you moved during your class. Was the class itself what prompted you to move interstate?
No, I'm actually originally from Queensland. So I was just in Victoria for a short amount of time taking care of family. So it was just a move home for me. But I'm so happy that I did it. And just there's a lot of the projects with Ozfish and the other Jack Evans project, it's all very local, which is awesome, but it's not necessary.
Yeah, thank you. I was just wondering if Queensland just had more opportunity to go forward in this line of work opposed to a place like Victoria and Melbourne. So thank you. It makes sense.
I think there's also support and different partners and different industry professionals in Victoria, because we're all on the coast. So Australia really needs to have protection and conservation happening all around our coast. So I think there's opportunities wherever you are.
I really love having students from interstate, that are getting involved locally, and we can help build the capacity of projects in different places. Like, it is all interconnected, so it's really great to have that.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks. Anybody have any questions? All right, another question.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry to bother you.
Okay. No, this is not bothering us. We really want to answer questions.
Sure. Now, regarding the projects that you spoke about, if I'm not in the financial position to start the course, potentially not in 2023, I'm not sure. Do you foresee these same projects as an ongoing project? Like if in the beginning of 2024, if I were to join, would I be hooked up to those projects, or do you foresee new projects being something that we would work on?
It's a good question as well. Now, the timeline for marine restoration projects, it can take a while. Like OzFish is going to be going on. OzFish will be ongoing, so that's going to be going on for a long time. That's something that we can continue to build capacity, support them. Also, the sand dune restoration, we'll keep doing that, and that's fine. In terms of Jack Evans, it's completely going to be in that timeline. You know, these things take time with permitting, working on different steps of the project. We will have to go through a pilot phase, and then we're going to go through another revision, and then we'll go through and hopefully get an actual reef installed, But that could be anywhere. The whole project could take probably anywhere from 2 to 3 years, the big scale project, So that's something that understanding that dealing with government, dealing with permitting, dealing with all these things, also collecting data, also working in a way where we're not, we all are busy people, so we want to keep it moving forward, but we don't want to overwhelm, I don't want to overwhelm the students with project deadlines and things like that. We do have to meet them, but it's not something that's this sense of urgency. We're working on it. We're continuing to work towards it, have the conversations with council, update it, keep growing it until it's ready. Have a conversation with community. So really this community consultation, that phase that we're entering into now, that the project proposal is kind of getting really solid, that's going to take some time. It takes time to talk to the community, to get to know what they want, to see if this is, if we need to change it or do anything. So these projects are, in the scope of probably years, to have like real, that long-term change. So to answer your question, if you're enrolling next year, we'll still be doing this project. Pretty much. I can guarantee you that. Yeah.
Got it. Thank you.
No worries. It's an invaluable experience to get to connect with government, to connect with NGOs like this, to connect with the community, to be driving change in this way is really, it's really quite a unique opportunity. Yep.
So I understand that it's a rolling admission, or from my understanding, it's a rolling admission.
Yep.
Now, if I'm a domestic student that will be coming in for your practicals, say, probably twice a year, does that is that a hindrance for me to start with these practicals, or sorry, for me to join the class when there's people that have already gained that prior knowledge when I'm entering halfway through? I'm not sure if that makes sense.
The way that the course is structured is that we don't really, it's not really linear, like it's not like you start with these basic skills and then learn, because you're learning a diversity of skills and a diversity of environments, right? We're not building on one skill set and then growing on that, and you need to go back to do that one in order to get this. That's not really how the course works, because it's you're getting so many skills across a wide range. It doesn't really disadvantage you at all to have students that are further along than you than not. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't. That's just simply because of the nature of what we're teaching and how we're teaching it. So students really can hop on board at any time and start learning without feeling disadvantaged from that. Definitely, yeah.
Okay,
it happens.
It's not compounding knowledge. It's
that's the right way to say it. That's correct. Yeah. It's not compounding knowledge. That's right.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Some skills students have done before in the past, but they can help you with that. For example, as an example, we have the practical coming up next month. We're going to be doing a survey of Jack Evans Harbor. We're doing the 3rd survey now to do the habitat mapping to understand where we want to do the placement of the units, where we're proposing that. Now, some of the students who've just joined on in this block haven't done fish monitoring, or they haven't done line and belt transects, but those skills in and of themselves are fairly easy to learn, and we can train them up pretty quickly to do that. Now, we don't go into detail in the units, but in order to actually be in the field, they'll learn that through doing the practical too, which is going to be great. And that's not something that, but generally, if there are actually assessments that that you're doing, you won't do the practical for it until you've done the knowledge theory. So that's really, in general, that's what it is. But yeah, it's fine. And it's good. It always works out. It's not compounding knowledge. That's the word. It's great. Thank you. Well, we're here. We're available to reach out to if you have any questions about the program. We will most likely be running another one of these in 2 to 3 months, just to explain. So if you have any questions, please reach out to us and we can answer any questions that you have. Jasmine, is there anything else that you want to say?
Just thank you, and I look forward to meeting you, hopefully, and yeah, just reach out. Anything
Yeah,
you
thanks.
need.
Thanks so much for your interest in the marine environment, you guys. It's really, really, really important, and I'm glad that you're all here for that. So thank you very much, everybody.
Yeah, because we need the oceans less than the ocean needs us. So we got to do something to help the oceans. So thank you.
See you, everybody. Have a good day. Thank you.